I'm Paul Carr,
And I'm Sarah Lacy.
and welcome to the second part of Why Is This News Jakarta edition. It's like CSI Miami.
I know, it's the two-part crossover event.
Exactly. So Sarah, you're still in Jakarta, how is Jakarta treating you?
It's treating me good. I'm tired. I've met with this many startups, and I think that's just a week.
That sandwich between the business cards, is that origami swan?
That's actual notes I took.
Oh, okay.
This might actually be the notes from the keynote that I gave that I was told 5 minutes before. I was told it was a Q&A, and then I got there and I was like, it says keynote on the thing, and they're like, oh yeah, it's a keynote. So I kind of went on the fly.
All you do is just answer your own questions. Just ask yourself questions and answer them.
It's like that character on Seinfeld. Would I invest in Indonesia? Maybe. Let me tell you why.
So, speaking of business cards, I couldn't help but notice as I looked up and down that stack that there were none from Facebook or Twitter or Foursquare.
You have a good eye.
I read them sideways. It's the only way to get through them all. You've just written a post, of course, saying that berating these startups, these social media companies, for not taking an interest in Indonesia, given how huge Indonesia is on social media.
Right. And you know what? I didn't say this in the post, but I do cut Foursquare a little slack because they are a younger startup. And, Facebook is definitely the most guilty here. I mean, They have thousands of people working for them. I know that they have several people who are specifically in charge of international. I don't know how big the department is, but it's at least a couple of people because I've met them. And, I've heard them say, well, we just don't understand the Indonesian market. Well, guess what? Get on a plane. I think it's ridiculous. I think what worries me from the Valley standpoint, the reason I wanted to write the post is I think it's just the China thing all over again, where the Valley just thinks, oh, well, there are these people in Southeast Asia, we can't worry about them now, and, take it for granted that they're always going to use their sites. And, I've been here all week meeting with web startups, and, we were media sponsors, and Google, Yahoo, and Microsoft all sponsored a startup competition that had 400 consumer web applicants.
Yeah.
This market isn't a guarantee.
Let's talk about those. So what are the big companies in Indonesia? What's exciting?
What's exciting? Well, I mean, the big thing that everyone is talking about is whether or not someone can be the PayPal of Indonesia. Basically come up with a way that e-commerce can take off, micropayments can take off. Right now, the degree to which any kind of virtual payments are happening in Indonesia, it's like those scratch cards, basically, that you can buy at internet cafes and give you credit, or it's mobile payments, although there's some real issues with that. This is a country, a huge country, fourth largest country in the world in terms of population, but only 3% actually have credit cards. More have bank cards, but it's just a big pain to do bank transfers online. So everyone wants e-commerce to take off. Everyone wants to be the payment solution provider or wants the payment solution provider to magically show up from the West. And that's the thing everyone is talking about.
Now, are these are they looking for mobile payments? Because I know in a lot of the emerging markets you've traveled in, mobile payments are huge, especially as apparently Indonesia is very cash-heavy societies. Is that happening in Indonesia?
So not really. I mean, there's definitely a lot of money changing hands over mobile, but unfortunately, most of it is staying with the telecom companies who most entrepreneurs, have one word for: greedy.
Unlike here, where
they're magnanimous.
They're just constantly handing out cash back to customers. Greedy telecoms. It's a different world over there.
But definitely compared to any other country I've gone to, the mobile selling apps over mobile is a lot harder here. People have told me that the telecom operators want as much as 80% out of every transaction as their fee.
Okay.
And they're basically like, take it or leave it. We have the audience. And they're not, they've like a lot of emerging markets, really compressed the voice rates, the SMS rates, the data rates. And so they have nothing else to monetize. And so they're just not going to let go of all the money they can make off apps. And they know that, mobile, like a lot of emerging markets, is where the distribution is. And so they just aren't going to, they're happy for the market to not take off rather than make any sort of reasonable deal. What's more than that, I've had at least a dozen startups tell me that that there's a lot of disputed billing. So they, like, for instance, they may see 1 million downloads of their product. They'll go to the carrier expecting to get paid whatever percentage for that 1 million downloads. And the carrier will say, well, 400,000 of those only, didn't have enough credit. So it showed it showed on your server logs they wanted a download, but according to us, they didn't have the credit, so we're not paying you. So no one really knows if that's true or not. The carriers are still kind of a black box, and maybe it's sour grapes on the part of entrepreneurs who really want to tap this distribution network. But it sounds like from people I've talked to who have built apps sort of all over Asia, people say that Indonesia is still one of the most Wild West. So it's not the slam dunk that even it is in frankly India or China.
Yeah. So okay, so that's frustrating. What have you seen that's the opposite of frustrating? What have you've been judging you've been at a startup competition?
No, they don't let me judge. A lot of the pitches are in Bahasa, so that would probably not be fair.
So you've been quietly judging a startup competition. What have you seen that's interesting? What is good and what is working there?
Well, the thing that I love about the Indonesian web scene is the people that build companies here are just building stuff they really, really love. Mm-hmm. There's none of this glamour with being an entrepreneur that goes on because there's no venture capital in the country almost, save 1 or 2 firms. Oh. And there's, been exactly one acquisition, which was done by Yahoo for, what was probably, I have no doubt a life-changing amount of money for the guys, but, wasn't exactly, a $1 billion win.
Yeah.
So it's, there's no money. There's no sort of like flood to cash here. And so the people building stuff are building stuff because they really like it. Earlier this week, I took a trip down to a town called Bandung, which was so cool. I mean, it's a kind of college town. It's higher in the mountains. It actually, weirdly enough, looked kind of like Medellin more so than it did Jakarta. Uh-huh. And, they say they have Indonesia's MIT there, which I have no idea what that means, but I assume that means it's some sort of engineering school. But I had dinner with these entrepreneurs, and they were so great. I mean, first of all, they were all arguing about, Mac and PC and, like, busting out all of this,
so different over there than it is here. I'm so glad we can do these shows and show people in the Valley how different things are there. They were arguing So there were some people who were fans of Mac and some who were fans of, and they were arguing.
So one guy tried to toast Steve Jobs, the other guy tried to toast Microsoft. The Apple fan wouldn't clink glasses with the Microsoft fan, and then someone else raised a glass to McAfee, to which that Apple fan said, "I don't even know what that is because I don't have viruses." I mean, It was just the dorkiest conversation, but in the best way. But a lot of the entrepreneurs there were just doing like things that bridge this kind of geeky program culture with the hugely creative class in Indonesia. I mean, you see sculptures everywhere in Indonesia. I mean, in the lobby of the ballroom where we had the morning session in, there was like a really amazing modern art exhibit. I mean, it's one of the most just art-loving, expressive cultures. And 2 of the startups that I really liked, I mean, maybe they're not going to be huge companies, but these guys building them love it, and the creative community loves it. One is a site for it's basically a distribution site for local comic book artists. Uh-huh. Because apparently there's like no more physical demand for Indonesian comics. It's all being flooded by the West. So this guy has basically started, and actually I've met 2 companies, believe it or not, that have started online Indonesian comics portals, which I thought was really cool. The other was this guy who's basically done an Indonesian version of Threadless. And, I've seen this in a couple markets, and a lot of times it's just kind of like Threadless, but there. This one really has an Indonesian twist. I mean, first of all, let me show you this guy's like business card.
Wow.
Like, these are the kind of shirts
that is a very busy pink card with what appears to be a T-shirt on it. That's got everything.
Right. And, I mean, the guy's really cool because he actually, if you win the monthly competition, you actually make a fairly sizable amount of money. So someone who's just designing a T-shirt could, make a couple months' salary, which would be cool. And then, he also has these competitions and themes. So it introduces all these like game mechanics into it every month and gets everyone excited about voting. And the theme this month is Indonesian ghost stories, which are apparently so horrifying. The dozen or so male entrepreneurs at the table could not even tell me about them. And the Indonesian Michael Arrington, this guy Rama, who invited me here, was like, "We're gonna have to stop talking about this." Like,
if you see one of the T-shirts, then in 7 days you'll die.
I know. But this guy, the t-shirt guy, is one of the ones in the competition, and we're finding out the winners tonight. And I'm kind of rooting for him because, you know, it's all about like local, how you apply it to the local market when it comes to these kind of companies and the UI. And I think he's done a really good job at both.
Well, if he wins, I'm hoping that next week on Why Is This News, you'll be wearing an Indonesian ghost story T-shirt to scare the shit out of our viewers.
I don't have a ghost story shirt.
Maybe you're not even allowed to import them into the US.
I have to wait a month to get the winner. But I do have an I Love Indonesia shirt, which, you know, many people would say is appropriate. Some people have called me the patron saint of this market.
Well,
so
I'm increasingly unambivalent about Indonesia T-shirt, so I'll be wearing that.
That is so rude.
I'm increasingly less ambivalent. I am becoming bivalent, whatever the word is. You are inspiring me to find out more about Indonesia. I feel like this is what these trips are for, is to like, so I don't have to travel. I just Skype in, you inspire me. I feel like I've been to India, Rwanda.
That's not the point. I'm trying to get more people to get on a plane and see the world, Paul, not to feel they don't have to get on a plane. You of all people, like, how did you become the Valley snob? You're like the expat.
I took a job at Twitter. They said there will be no traveling to emerging markets. Those people could just take care of themselves and keep sending us the traffic. Anyway, I'm going to be in the Valley when you get back because I'm never leaving here. So, and I think I speak for all our viewers when I say very much looking forward to having you back in the studio. So,
I'm very looking forward to being back. This is my last international trip of the year, believe it or not.
It's also the second to last month of the year, but
dude, you know how much I travel. That's saying something.
That's true. You consider another 6 trips.
Without travel is like that's the most I've stayed in the United States for 2 years.
Well, again, the United States looks forward to having you back, and
that's true.
We will join the viewers next week on Why Is This News.